Welcome to the Sports Note for Wednesday, January 15th. We are officially midway through the first month of the year. I know I came to you guys almost 10 days ago. It certainly doesn't feel that long. But we're kind of in a little bit of a doldrum. At this point, it's a very exciting time in the sports world. We've got the NHL trade deadline coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got the NBA All-Star Game coming up next month. Spring training opens here in a few weeks. We've got the NFL playoffs in full swing. We've got the NCAA football championship game coming up a week from Monday. Or I should say this coming Monday. But we've also got in the NBA, we've got a heavy hitter matchup tomorrow where Cleveland plays Oklahoma City, this time in OKC, after Cleveland took the first meeting in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse just last week. And a team that's actually now on the rise that everyone was kind of hoping would get back to their form are the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they're now starting to play a lot better. They're climbing in the standings. And it was a little bit of an uncertain year for the Wolves, considering after getting swept out of the playoffs last year by Dallas in the Western Conference Finals, that you knew a change was going to happen. Nobody actually anticipated Karl Anthony Towns getting moved for Julius Randle and a whole host of others with the New York Knicks. Now, this trade has seemed to benefit the Knicks a lot more than it has the Wolves, as the Knicks are, running a little bit hotter right now. The Knicks are third in the East at 26-15. They lost their last game. But Minnesota 21-18, not that far behind. But Minnesota right now is sitting 8th in the West, and they are 12 games out of the top spot, but they are also a half game out of, they're in the play-in tournament by a half game. Now, if Minnesota's going to start to make a little bit of a run and get themselves into that top 6, if not certainly the top 4, to where they are 3 games out of hosting a first-round series, Anthony Edwards is going to have to grow the hell up. Anthony Edwards on Monday was fined $50,000 again by the NBA for an obscene gesture in the direct eyeful and in the direction of an official. So this is now the 5th time that Edwards has been fined for something like this season. Some sort of profane or obscene gesture. And that's also not counting the fact that he's racked up 9 technical fouls this year. Now, how the NBA's tech system work is that once you hit that 15th technical, the 16th one, it's an automatic 1-game suspension, but you're also fined for every technical that you incur. You're also fined for every flagrant, you're fined for every ejection. For technicals 1 through 5, you're fined $2,000. For 5 through 11, you're fined $3,000. 5 through 10, it's $3,000. 11 through 15, it's $4,000. And then number 16 is, again, that 1-game suspension, and it's a $5,000 fine, and it's $5,000 every technical thereafter. But the thing is it's not like it resets where 15 more technicals you're suspended again. Once you hit that number 16, you get 17 and fined $5,000, and then once you hit 18, it's $5,000 and another suspension. So every other technical, 16, 18, 20, etc., is basically at that point costing you $5,000 and a tech. I mean, realistically, $5,000 and a 1-game suspension without pay. So essentially, you get run in your very next game coming off that suspension. It's $10,000 and you're forfeiting a game check. Now, the NBA record, Ant is not going to get anywhere near. That was Rasheed Wallace, I want to say back around 2003. He racked up 71 technicals and had a multitude of 1-game suspensions. He actually has the NBA record with over 300 technical fouls. But Ant had 15 last year, which actually saw him one more. He would have actually gotten broken off under the league rules. Anthony Edwards was docked. He was docked on December 23rd. 75 grand for publicly criticizing an official in a game against Golden State. December 4th, he was docked 25,000 for profanity in a post-game interview. November 17th, he was docked 35,000 for an obscene gesture on the court. And then again, he was docked 50 grand on Monday for an obscene gesture in the right directed at an official in a game against the Memphis Grizzlies. So with Edwards, he's actually been fined $285,000 this year just in fines, and that's also not. I don't believe that that's including the $18,000 in technical fouls he's already incurred this year, and that's actually, if that were 2,000, I want to say that's like 23 grand in technicals alone. And now as he's hit 9, he gets one more, and then that kicks up to 4,000. Now for Edwards, it's a drop in the bucket considering he's making 42.1 this year. But Minnesota's not even halfway through their schedule, and Edwards is one tech away from the next tier of technical punishment at this point. There's no argument that Anthony Edwards is a top 5 player in the league. He might even be top 3. Realistically, you can make the argument that between him and Shai Alexander in Oklahoma City, they're the two best players in the NBA right now. And Anthony Edwards is only 23 years old. Now I understand, he's 23. He's got a mouth on him. He makes a lot of brash comments, but he can back them up. But the problem is, you cannot start criticizing officials to their face. You can say all you want in the postgame, and yeah, they're going to dock you 25 grand. He's up to 75,000 at this point. And then the coup de grace was in a post-game interview on December 29th, he used profanity again. So every time he uses profanity in a post-game interview, the fine adds 25,000. So he's at 100,000 with that fine alone, just for the profanity in the post-game interviews. But now it's to the point where, how many more fines can you really give this guy? That's $285,000 in fines minus the technicals, and this is like, some of it's on court, but a lot of this is off court, post game, interviews in the media. You can't do that. I'm from the school that, you can't, if you drop profanity on TV or radio, that the station, first of all, would suspend you or flat out, if you were young enough, kick you straight off the air. And because that station would end up getting fined, 30,000, 50,000, whatever it was. I believe I actually was thinking about, petitioning to do a sports talk radio show during my time in college on the university's station, and our faculty advisor said, while that's a good idea, unfortunately it wouldn't work for you because you're so short-tempered. You'd end up costing us $30,000 and would get kicked off of the air within probably the first hour of your show. And he actually had a little bit of a point there, if you guys have actually watched The Wise Guys, and especially now that you've watched this show where we've done over 100 episodes. But Edwards has got to grow up. Shooting your mouth off is one thing. Shooting your mouth off at the officiating. Argue a foul call. Argue something that you want. To the official all you want. If they tee you up, they tee you up. If you get hot under the collar, you get tossed. That's one thing. But basically getting flipping the official a bird. And yet the funny thing is Fred VanVleet in Houston has made contact with officials twice this year and has only been fined. And the second one it wasn't malicious, but it was definitely intentional, and there's no way that you can look at that and actually say that there wasn't incidental contact. He made contact with an official to try and actually, get in front of the official to argue his case. So how he was not broken off, in baseball, you touch an umpire, that's 10 games automatically. You make contact with an official in the NFL, you're getting a call from Roger Goodell, you're tossed out of that game, you're fined, and then depending on what else happens, you could end up garnering a 1-game suspension as well. I remember I remember it was a Calgary Flames player made malicious contact with an official, and then the league went back and not only fined him, but suspended him for, I want to say, 8 games. It might have been Dennis Weidman. I could be wrong on that. After he took what he felt was an egregious hit that was not called and made matters worse, in the retaliation, not against the player, but against the official. But the NBA, I don't want to say this is par for the course for the NBA, but this is kind of, they slam Draymond Green, and deservedly so. He's got a target on his back, but he's only got 8 techs this year. We all saw how fast the league came down on him after the whole skirmish with the Timberwolves last year, where he ended up pulling Rudy Gobert off the pile by putting him in a chokehold, and then got broken off indefinitely, which turned out to be 8 games for elbowing a guy in the face on purpose just a few weeks later. So for Edwards to now get fined like this 3 times in less than a month, there's a problem going on. He said that he won't do it again. There won't be any more texts. I'll believe that when I see it. I guarantee by the time I come to you guys next, he'll actually have at least 1, if not 2 more texts at that point. And then, we saw what the league did with John Morant with flashing, firearms on social media, where they broke him off 25 games a couple of years ago. And, the irony is not lost on me that, that Ant's most recent infraction here was, where he gets popped the 50 grand on the court, came against Ja, after everything that went down with him, of course. Adam Silver's going to have a very, very short leash if Ant keeps compounding like this. He's not untouchable. If you saw LeBron doing this, LeBron gets broken off, but LeBron is mature enough. He's 40 years old. He's not going to do something like this. Kevin Durant, complains a lot on social media. He had burner social media accounts to argue with his detractors on Twitter and Instagram and whatever else. We've actually seen how petty some of these NBA players can be, and Ant right now is, I'm not saying he's writing, his mouth is writing checks that his ass can't cash because of, number one, his talent, but and number 2, the money that he's making, with the Supermax deal he's currently under. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not making these mistakes, and Shai is going to be probably the NBA's first $80 million man coming up here before too long, especially if Oklahoma City makes a deep run, if not wins the NBA championship this year. So let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Adam Silver draws the line? Do you think Anthony Edwards is going to grow up? Do you actually see that this season? Do you actually see the fines compounding to where he's broken off for 7 figures before too long? The Wise Guys is finally back on Sunday night, and boy, do we have a lot going on here. We've got the NFL going on with the coaching carousel. We've got the drama going on in Cleveland right now, not only with their quarterbacks but the stadium situation. We're going to definitely talk some NBA. We've got the college football playoff. I've got you kind of want to pay attention to the very early part of that segment for a little surprise that I'm going to have, and Mike knows full well what it is. We've got spring training coming up before too long, so I will see you guys very, very soon. Y'all take care.